Like many comedic actors, Rachel Sennott is trying to explore a more dramatic side while she's still balancing out her comedy act. And with that, you get I Used to Be Funny, which may sometimes struggle to hold your attention. So, to summarize the film, Sam is an up and coming comedian in Canada, I believe in the Toronto area, and she has even filmed her first special. But even though she's starting to get somewhere in comedy, it's not paying enough to allow her to pay her bills and rent. So, with that, she's an au pair during the day, and she specifically is an au pair for a kid whose name is Brooke. Now, Brooke is 13, 14, going through a lot besides puberty, and so is her father named Cameron. And unfortunately for Sam, Cameron is a man who completely alters her trajectory at that time to the point where she finds herself having to take a break from comedy in order to deal with a few things. So getting to the review section, the first hype is that the film doesn't show what happened to Sam. It leads up to the moment, shows the aftermath of it, but it makes it clear that this isn't about the sensationalism of watching somebody be assaulted. It's about seeing the drastic shift that happens in a person, the recovery, and the relationships that get damaged while they're in recovery because they have to reconfigure who they are, their autonomy, and so much more in the process of dealing with this life-altering event. Which leads to the next highlight, and that's just that when it comes to Brooke and Sam's relationship, even though it starts off like a lot of babysitter relationships was based off of money, as it evolves, you get kind of a sisterhood. And considering what Brooke brings to this film as somebody who's dealing with their father being distant, their mother being sickly, and while she does have an aunt, her aunt has a whole family with kids, a husband, I believe, that they have to take care of, so they can't try to be that supplemental person for them. So when it comes to Sam, she is kind of tasked with being her everything. And when you speak about the after the event that Cameron causes, you can see that Brooke is one of the collateral damages, and it's, in many ways, what Brooke's actress brings to this film is that it elevates it to a point that, unfortunately, Rachel Sennott could not. And I don't think that you can really say enough about what Brooke's actress brought to this film to kind of make it something that forced Sennott to take it a bit more seriously. And I'm not saying as an actor she didn't take what was her character was going through seriously, but rather I see Sennott as one of those actors who isn't the type of lead who's just singular. They're a lead in terms of they need that co-pilot, for lack of a better term, who helps push them, who helps give them someone to play off of. And while for drama, I think that Sennott is still trying to figure out how you can bring that sort of comedy dynamic where you're working off of somebody else to this type of feel. But I would say Brooke gave her, well, Brooke's actor anyway, gave her that first quality scene partner to let her kind of get her muscles going, for lack of a better way to put it. And in many ways, kind of picking up on that, that's what kind of makes this film sort of iffy. And what's on the fence topic is that it doesn't necessarily hold your attention. While it's well written for most of the characters, again, Sennott, as much as she's capable of being a dramatic actress, and she has had some dramatic moments or characters in her past roles, I wouldn't say that she's able to bring that same charisma, that same sort of scene stealer energy to this film. And that's including when she's doing stand-up comedy, because a lot of the jokes that she performs are generic and don't feel like the kind of stuff that would necessarily launch someone's career. I mean, granted, comedy's subjective, but it definitely wasn't the kind of stuff that I would consider silver lining. It was just stuff to establish, hey, before all this happened, she was a stand-up comedian who was starting to move up in the world. But I don't know. If I was in a theater when I watched this, I think I would have paid more attention, but unfortunately, this wasn't playing nowhere near me, so it was a video on demand option, and I'm not saying I ever had a point where I was just going to turn it off, but there were definitely points where I was just checking how much time was left before this was over. Overall, while I would definitely say this film is well written, it's done well in terms of what Brooks' actor gives, there is the question whether or not, when it comes to Sennott, was it her character, her performance? What exactly was missing so that she could have kept our attention? And I don't want to say it's all on her, but it's hard to think of where else the weak link in the fence is. And unfortunately, all signs point to her character, potentially her performance. And even with that said, though, I'm not saying I Used to Be Funny is bad, just maybe might have had a miscasting issue.